Sorry, there will be glitches today, so be prepared for them. Again, welcome. This is an experimental attempt on Zoom at having a full-length play. We're excited about it here at the Actors Studio of Newburyport and looking forward to your feedback at the end of the play. These are North Shore Readers Theaters are typically plays that are their first time up on a stage anywhere. So the feedback that you give is going to be really important. In advance, I'd like to apologize for any mistakes, Zoom bombs, misbehaviors that take place. We'll try to deal with them quickly and appropriately as time permits. So just a few housekeeping items. There will be a brief intermission. The audience should keep your microphone on mute and video off during the performance. After the performance, you will be able to unmute yourself and ask questions during the talkback. And our actors should be the only video on the screen. And I'll be managing that as host to make sure that that happens. During the talkback, also, if you ask a question and unmute yourself, you may be asked to turn your video on. It's entirely up to you whether you do or not. Just a couple of other housekeeping items to help you make this an enjoyable experience. Your mute and unmute button, as well as your video button, is in the lower left of your screen, especially for those of you that are not familiar with Zoom. And in the upper right of your screen is options for viewing, speaker view or gallery view, or Brady Bunch or Hollywood Squares view. We recommend that you have it on gallery view so you see all our actors at the same time. Now, additional housekeeping tips that will help your video: to show only the actors and not all the black screens of all the audience, you can click on the 3 dots of any black square, such as mine here, and get a menu. Scroll down to the bottom menu and select Hide Non-Video Participants. So that's your choice whether you do that or not, but it will enhance your viewing experience by limiting it only to actors' videos on your screen. So with that, just a couple more housekeeping items. During the talkback after the performance, keep yourself on mute if you're not asking a question to avoid background noise, barking dogs, phones going off. Alternatively, ask questions in the chat, and the moderator, Mark Clopton, will select from those. Our playwright will also be joining the talkback. And this session is being recorded. The Actors Studio of Newburyport survives on your donations. Go to give.newburyportacting.org to donate, or newburyportacting.org website for more information on upcoming programs. So with that, we'll turn it over to our performance this morning of How To.
How To, a play in 2 acts by Rachel Basch. Characters: Carl Stern, Libby Stern, Josh Stern, Carl and Libby's son, Marin Canaday, Josh's new girlfriend. Act 1, Scene 1. The setting: the edge of a college quad. It is a Saturday afternoon in late May. In the background, noise of various crowds. Flags displaying class reunion years are visible. There is a brick wall covered with ivy, a bench, and 1 kiosk papered with flyers and posters. Bells in the clock tower ring. Carl and Libby are ambling around the quad.
You think it's real?
What?
That.
The brick?
Jesus, no, that ubiquitous, synonymous, synecdochic, the green stuff on the side of the building.
The ivy?
Yeah.
You're asking me if the ivy on the side of that 19th century building is real? You suspect what? An endowment earmarked for superglue?
Well, nothing would surprise me about this place. Look at these people. Everyone's so pleased with themselves.
And when you were an undergrad here?
I was never pleased with myself.
No.
It's not just the students and the alums. Check out the parents. Bloviated, every last one of them. Big deal, your kid goes here. What's it got to do with you? No reason to walk around with a shit-eating grin.
Not all grins are shit-eating.
Medication. We're looking at a lot of medication.
Their children are about to graduate from a great school. We could be witnessing genuine joy.
They've paid the last tuition bill.
They're proud of their children. Is there room for that in Carl Stern's withered and warped view of the world?
Hey, I'm a shit, but I don't have a shit-eating grin. For this, you should be thankful.
Just for today, try to be happy for him. Imagine what it's like, returning as an alum, having his play put on in this theater. All these people here for commencement and reunion. It must be...
Why? How will it help him for me to be happy for him? To imagine how happy he is.
Libby's phone beeps. She reaches into her straw tote bag and pulls out her phone.
What?
He just wanted to know if we'd gotten here yet.
All I'm saying is, Josh doesn't need me to be happy for him. At this point, being his father is a non-participatory sport. I'm just the audience for his happiness.
He wants for you to be proud of him. It's what parents are for. It's what they do.
I've never understood that concept, being proud of someone. It presupposes ownership, like accepting congratulations on behalf of somebody. I never understood that one either.
Feeling pride in a child's accomplishments is one of the rewards of being a parent.
Certainly has been for you.
And I'm thankful, truly thankful for all those occasions when I've been bursting with pride.
Don't I know it?
Just for today and tonight, until we get back to the car tomorrow and drive home, slip your ego a tranquilizer, okay?
And what about you? What's your assignment for the next 18 hours?
I'm going to pay attention to the play so we can talk about it afterwards. I'm going to listen to the audience, to their reaction, and I'm going to be grateful for a day off from having to write another chapter of Grill Your Way to Gorgeous.
It's Grill Yourself Thin. That's the title we agreed to, remember? Another one for your collection.
Why would you rip down an ad for the play?
Carl walks back to the kiosk, pulls a thumbtack from another flyer, and fastens the poster for Josh's play over it. He walks away from the bench and off stage.
Hello, Ken. It's Libby Stern. I got your text. Thank you. Wow. Yes, for sure. Me too. I'm out of town right now. My son has Wednesday, sure. 11, okay. Not your home office. Can you just say that address again? Definitely. Thank you. Well, thank you.
Lib, you've got to see this.
Where'd you get that?
Class of 56. They've set up a sweet little tent, very genteel. House, hats, bow ties. Got a whole croquet thing going.
They do not.
Libby takes the cup from him.
What is this?
Let me jog back down there and get you one. They're happy for the company, trust me. Class of kind of thins out by the time you get to your 60th. You go down there, they'll wet themselves.
It smells like gin.
Well, that's what they drank in 1956. We done killing time?
Please don't get drunk before the performance.
How about after?
I thought we could go to that place, you know, with the stained glass windows on River Street.
The rip-off place?
What I'm saying is, if you down that on an empty stomach.
Carl pitches the contents of the drink into the ivy.
If it's real, then given the habitat, this ought to act like fucking Miracle Grow. You should have seen those guys down there.
Pleased with themselves?
Every one of them a grinning Gus, but benign in the way that only the aged can be.
It's a special occasion. I thought we could go to a nicer restaurant after.
Not with a cast of thousands.
With whomever Josh wants. I'm sure Grace.
Of course, Grace.
I've been saving for this, for tonight.
From what?
What do you mean from what? Saving is saving, setting money aside.
From where?
Here and there, from what comes in. When we turned in the final manuscript for Network Your Way to a New You, I took $100. And when we got the advance on Think Yourself Out of Any Situation, I took another 50. And
I've been paying the mortgage with a credit card, and you've been fucking putting away money for this dinner?
$150 isn't going to make a difference either way.
That's the thinking that got us here.
Got us where?
Financial hell.
No, that is not where we are. Where we are is anhedonia, an exurb of depression and a suburb of loss of vision. And not earning enough is what got us here. We have a reason to celebrate, and we have so few reasons to celebrate. I'll be goddamned if you want me to turn on my heels after this play and crawl back to the mole hole with a box of crackers and a bottle of whatever you got stowed in the wheel well. Can't we just live like other people for one night? Like people who deserve good things to happen?
You mean like the people littering this campus? Toolies strapped to the roofs of their Range Rovers ready for westward expansion and acquisition at any possible moment?
Like people who know when to be appropriately happy.
Like people who can afford to be happy.
Listen to yourself. Do you hear how twisted that is? Why do you reduce everything to money? You deliberately choose that one yardstick to measure everything. It's a sickness. I refuse to participate in it any longer.
Lib, honey. Listen to me. Stop for a minute and listen to me. I know you think I'm just being...
Anti-life, that's what you are. Oh, if we were only dead, it would be so much cheaper.
We are at the end, honey. We're in real danger of losing the house.
No, we're not. God, why is it always worst case wolf at the door with you? Jesus, Carl. I'm 57. I want to have one goddamn day when I don't have to worry every time I breathe in and out what it's costing me.
I don't want you to be worried either about that, Lib. That's why I've been working on a plan. I love you. I don't want to spend you to spend 75 hours a week writing these shit books with me. Shit books for shit pay. We're like 21st century indentured servants. We've got to get free of this debt and then maybe start to think of some other ways to make a living. But the only way to even the ledger is to get radical. And that's not me being life denying or anhedonic. It's thrilling, like an extreme sport. Remember earlier when we made that wrong turn trying to get to the CVS off of Route 210 and I turned around on the driveway? You know what the rents are there? We could get one floor of one of those triple deckers for like $700 a month, including utilities. That would be 1/3 of what we pay now on mortgage, homeowners, and taxes. We could pay everything off.
The old factory housing up on the hill with the couches in the yard? Those are crack houses, Carl. You want us to sell the home where we raised Josh and move to a warren of drug dens?
We have to downscale. It's not a matter of choice.
Don't say that to me. Don't ever tell me that there's no choice. That's your problem. That's the whole thing. You don't feel you have a choice about anything ever. You're like a car on that track at the car wash, just hooked on waiting for it all to happen to you. The jets with the water, then the soap.
You don't get to do this. You don't get to reduce me to a caricature. Some soulless bean counter who doesn't know the difference between a dialectic and a dial tone. You think it's fun being the treasurer? I'd much rather be you of the ethereal, aesthetic high road. It's just too easy for you to mock me. Jesus, Libby, I don't want us to end up old and homeless.
Oh, God, you're so dramatic.
I wish I were. I'm serious, Lib. I'm really afraid.
Give me your wallet.
Carl reluctantly pulls out a very worn, duct-taped brown leather wallet.
I've only got a 10 and 2 5s.
Libby takes the wallet from him and pulls out a tiny, worn newspaper clipping and reads it.
If you can write, you own the world.
You're the one who cut that out.
Like 30 years ago, and you still have it.
Well, I made a big show of tucking it into my wallet.
You used to believe anything was possible.
No, I only wanted you to think that I did because I knew it turned you on. You're not that hard to figure out.
Libby grabs the little slip of paper and puts it in her bag.
It's true, you know. If you can write, you own the world. You just never understood what that really meant.
I guess you can't rely on a bean counter for penetration.
If you really were a bean counter, we'd have more beans. So stop saying that.
Libby thumbs through the wallet.
Here, a 10 and 1 5.
Carl takes the wallet from her, slips out a business card, and hands it to Libby.
This doesn't look like a real bank.
It's the people you talk to so you don't have to talk to the real bank.
Like debt counseling? Huh. Why can't we be people who have cards for travel agents or limo drivers?
The point is to consolidate the debt before it has a significant impact on our credit. When I met with...
What? You already met with these people without telling me?
I was trying to protect you. It's my job, you know, to take care of you.
We should go get seats.
Usually you see mountains in the distance, but here it's like they're so close, too close. I've always found that disconcerting.
It doesn't matter how I feel, does it? It's kind of incredible, really. I've told you there's only one thing I need from you, and that's honesty. I've explained it's the most important thing for me, being able to trust you, and still...
It's been almost 3 years. You're never going to let this go, are you?
You're the one who brings up money all the time. You bring up money, naturally we're going to... If you hadn't...
If I hadn't lost my job, then...
For the millionth fucking time, you didn't lose your job. You quit.
I would have lost my mind if I hadn't left there. I would have...
You would have become fully vested. 6 more months. All you had to do was talk to me.
So you could tell me what to do?
What's it like making up the rules all the time, creating your own reality? Does it make you feel omnipotent?
Hey, so glad you guys could come up for this.
Oh, kiddo, we wouldn't have missed this for the world. It's thrilling.
Or sickening, depending on your perspective. There are 2 seats reserved for you.
You're not going to sit with us?
Gotta walk. I'll be in the back of the house, wearing a path into the carpet.
You know they're counting on the old guys opening up their wallets after this weekend. I hope there's nothing too controversial.
Right, I know. Actually, I'm worried they picked this thing for its vanilla flavor. It's probably...
Don't be ridiculous. Before I forget.
Libby reaches into her bag and pulls out a wrapped gift, a picture frame, offers the gift to Josh.
Mom, you haven't even seen it. You can't know that's not the reason. What's this?
But I can know, because I know how good you are. Because I've seen your other... It's just something to mark the occasion.
I don't have... Can you... I'm a little preoccupied at the moment.
Libby places the gift back into her bag.
I should warn you, you may be the one person who actually finds this play unsettling.
Oh, goody.
If my ego has to die a little death in the service of your art, well, that's what mothers are for, material.
A character in the play says almost exactly that.
All right, then. See you on the flip side.
They decided to have a talk back after the show.
A what back?
Really?
Older audiences like it. They get to ask me and the director questions.
Stupid questions, no doubt.
Nothing but. There's a reception after, sponsored by the class of 79. Your class, Dad.
We should go in.
Where's Grace?
I've got seats reserved for you, front and center.
Josh quickly kisses Libby and leaves.
Maybe Grace had a gaming emergency.
I thought you liked her
I like the idea of her
because she's rich.
because she'll always be gamefully employed.
Well, it doesn't strike me as particularly supportive of her to be absent today.
Maybe she doesn't like us. It's hard to believe.
Did you say something to her?
When? When would I have had the chance?
Mother's Day?
Doesn't she have her own mother?
What?
You nervous?
Should I be?
I think this is going to be about you.
End of scene. Scene 2. Interior of a small college theater. We hear applause. When lights come up, Josh's play has just ended. Marin is sitting next to Carl in the theater.
You must be Josh's parents. It's such a pleasure to meet you. I'm Marin. I hope I didn't disturb you when I sat down. We had a last-minute thing backstage.
Carl Stern. And this is my wife, Libby.
I think I'll be back in a minute.
Libby exits the theater.
I hope you'll be able to join us for dinner. I made reservations at, sorry, Josh gave me the name of the place.
Stage manager speaks. We're going to begin our talk back in just about 5 minutes.
I should probably get up there.
Oh, you bear some responsibility for this?
Director.
Your decision to set up the chairs, all musical chairs and that.
Oh yeah, we just tried that for the first time. That's new, like today new. In fact, that whole scene, you and Libby should definitely ask some questions. It's always awkward when there's a talk back and the audience just sits back, like they're waiting for another performance.
Marin walks up to the stage. On stage, Marin and Josh are seated on folding chairs to one side of the set.
Thanks for sticking around. We're going to keep this really short because I know you're eager to get to the reception that's planned for afterwards. I'm Marin Canaday. I directed Of Mothers and Kidders. This is the playwright, Josh Stern. Wow, okay, hands are already up. This is great. We're in a pretty small space, so I don't think you need a mic. Maybe just stand so everyone can hear the question.
Yeah. Here, as an undergrad, I was, of course, an English major. It's kind of the family business. My dad, Carl Stern, class of 79, was an English major. My parents are writers, so, not far from the tree and all that stuff. Yeah, wow. I'm in no position to be advising anyone. I mean, Marin can tell you, I sent this play to her, like what, 2 years ago?
18 months.
Okay, year and a half. And she liked it enough to tie me to the mast for a year and a half to rework it. We did a couple of workshops, 2, beginning last summer, and it's just been a real process. Revise, edit, cut, add, collaborate. The biggest change? Great question. Wow, okay. What was the biggest flaw in that first draft? I think I liked your first question better. If you ask Marin, which I think I will do now, she'll tell you there were so very many flaws, all of them apparently dear to me, so it would be tough to choose.
Honestly, I was really affected when I first read this play. And that's what I look for always. Like, I was deeply moved, and I was made to think. If a play has that, well, I mean, and you know, that was all there from the beginning. The stuff that Josh went back to, the reworking, that's simply the process of, okay, you know, here I'm gonna say it, that's the process of making art. I'm sure there are a number of artists in the audience that can attest to that.
Young voice from the audience. Hedge fund managers and attorneys, yes. Artists, not so much. The audience laughs.
Okay, well, when we consume art, meaning see a movie, read a book, look at a sculpture, we tend not to think too much about the process. We see the finished product. And maybe with a movie, we think about the process because that whole thing's part of the culture. But for sure, we do not say, wow, God, all those wrong turns before the right turns were made, all those dead ends, all the gags that fell flat, the stuff that didn't make sense or add up. I mean, we love the dyad. It's good, bad, unfinished, finished. You know what I'm saying? I'm in theater because I'm interested in process. Right, yeah, that is what shrinks say.
So, how many times would you say that you've read and seen this play?
Yeah, actually, that's a super interesting question. I really love that question because it really gets to this whole process notion. And the answer is tons. That's what happens. You get so steeped in the text, like thoroughly immersed in it from the repetition.
Don't you lose your objectivity?
I hope so. What I mean is, we're not in the objectivity business here. Art is subjective, emotional. It's meant to seduce and provoke. And
Well, you win that point. It definitely provoked me.
good, that's good. What was it you found so provocative?
The perspective, the implication that only the kid, the stand-up comic, sees the world as it is and everyone else, most especially his mother, is really off.
You're referring to the scene in the support group. That part's all new. I think that's a really excellent example of.
What exactly are we supposed to feel there? Okay, first, let's establish that it's a funny idea. Sure, let's credit the creativity of that concept, a support group for the mothers of stand-up comics. But what I want to know is why the mothers aren't treated with as much dimensionality as the main character, the stand-up comic.
Wow, hey, that is such a great question. Such a rich area. That scene, the support group scene, with those women gathering in that dingy basement, clearly coming week after week, and this strange kind of inverse thing going on, where the more successful their kids are, the more they're in need of this group. You know, I mean. The crisis here is, you know, Jason has just appeared on late night network TV doing 5 minutes of his thing. And for like most parents, they'd be bragging about it. I mean, like what makes his comedy so successful is that he uses the mother, right? She's his great subject. And he's going to get rich and famous kind of at her expense.
While Marin is talking, Josh walks off stage.
And we get to see the real debt of gratitude the comics owe to these mothers as they do little bits of condemning routines for one another. They get to mimic their kids mimicking them. I mean, the funhouse mirror aspect of it just adds this layer of compassion that wasn't present before. I think you really end up feeling for those mothers.
And that was the intent? To make the mothers more sympathetic?
Stage manager's voice. We'll be continuing this dynamic conversation during the reception, which is just getting underway now in the Dodge Theater lobby. It's sponsored by the class of '79. I want to thank you all for coming out to Of Mothers and Kidders and for staying after and engaging in this talkback. The theater empties except for Carl and Libby.
It needs an intermission.
But
The play, it needs some kind of interruption.
I'm trying to, well, It's probably not really possible, but what would I think of this play if I were just some reasonably perceptive theater goer with an above average sense of humor?
You'd think that the playwright had been raised by a she-wolf. I'm going to say something about the casting.
I've got my physical flaws, God knows. I mean, I'm sure you could mock any number of things about my look. But really, that actress or that character, maybe she was wearing some kind of padding. Who knows? But I'm not lumpy.
You're wonderful to look at, Lib. You always have been and you always will be.
You can't say that.
You're definitely not lumpy. It's certainly not an obloid.
Well, the Asian mother gets to be beautiful.
Well, that was part of her kid's routine, her vanity. At least your character isn't vain.
Did you notice how the ethnic mothers got treated better?
That had to be a political correctness thing.
Maybe.
I'm thinking that we need a drink.
It was worse than an ethnic stereotype, what he did with my character.
What do you mean?
He made fun of something real. He made me feel bad about something I've always thought of as my greatest gift to him.
Carl sees something beneath the seats. He crouches on the ground, reaches under the seat.
Jesus, it's a 20. The only other time I found a 20.
That afternoon with your brother at the Stanhope. We'd ordered without looking at the menu, and then the check arrived, and I remember it was $26, and you were bitching and moaning. And then we stepped out onto the sidewalk.
There was that 20. $20 in 1982 was real money.
It's still real money. That can go into my little collection for our dinner out.
Well, get this. Sounds like to me that the ginger snap woman in the clothes press is taking us to dinner.
Carl hands the 20 to Libby.
Well, she is very crisp looking, isn't she?
What the hell kind of a name is Marin?
Maybe she's from California.
That's Marin. Hey, did you notice
I don't think it means anything.
our little Indonesian gamer has been thrown over for...
Don't jump to conclusions.
Why is it when you make deductions, it's insightful, and when I do that...
Why do you think the father's dead?
What?
Why do you think Josh chose for the main character to have a totally absent father?
Because two of us would be too much to handle.
Were there moments when you were watching
When I wished that he'd gone into investment banking,
when it didn't feel painful?
I laughed.
I laugh too sometimes.
The mothers are really just a subplot. The whole thing about live performance, the artists interacting in the moment with the audience, that's what it's really about, right?
I'm not sure what it's really about.
Well, I know someone we can ask, and I know exactly where to find him. And that place also promises...
You must be dying for a drink. You'll have to walk the class of '79 gauntlet to get one.
Well, what's a decades-old humiliation compared with a brand new one?
What does that mean?
This
What?
This play.
How's this humiliating for you?
Well, I mean, it kind of skewers you in a way.
And what does that have to do with you?
The opposite of reflected glory, tarred with the same brush.
Really?
I don't know.
You're not ashamed of the play, are you? I mean, didn't you think it was good as plays go, that he made something?
Jesus. God, you're incredible. He really did nail you. I got to give him that. You're going to go out there and accept congratulations on his behalf, even at your own expense. It's pathological. It's what he was lambasting, actually, your inability to separate your appropriation of his talent, his creation, of his very being, his...
I'm not an idiot, Carl. I understood perfectly well what was being skewered.
Who, not what.
I don't think so. That's what I was trying to tell you before, but you weren't listening. If it were just me, my behavior, my annoying, idiosyncratic, even destructive form of mothering, well, that would be one thing. But what he mocked, what he belittled was an ethos, a whole belief system.
And what's the central tenet of the religion that he desecrated?
He poked fun at the work of my whole adult life. The idea that you take a back seat for the sake of your children, that you place their needs before yours, that you do everything you can so that they will succeed. What I did when I was raising him,
When we were raising him,
what I did was conscious, considered, thought went into it. It wasn't a matter of ego gratification. It wasn't about me. That was the glorious thing. Being his mother, I was allowed to be engaged in something bigger, something beyond myself.
the propagation of the species, the continuation of life on the planet. Not really so very lofty.
Forget it.
You sublimated your desires, projected your goals, your aspirations, your ravenous need for success onto him. How is that glorious?
You're right. It's not. Sorry. I forgot the family motto there for a minute. It's all shit. I wonder what the Latin is for that. God, you probably know. Maybe we could have a crest made, and then we can post it over the doorway of our new home, our little crack house in East Bumfuck. Come on, let's go. We've missed at least one round of free drinks, or 3, depending on how fast you can down them. And I'm sure we've missed several opportunities for you to continue to perpetuate the omission of the truth about your relationship to the class of '79. What the hell are we waiting for? Let's get out there and get drunk and mingle and lie our asses off and stoke the big fiery furnace of our victimization, in which the good guys, the smart guys, the creative guys, the thinking, feeling people capable of synthesizing vast quantities of truth with a capital T always finish last.
Are you quite done?
No, Carl, I'm not done. I'm like a bellows.
Jesus.
You never expel the air from me, no matter how many times you clap me shut.
Hey, you were the one who thought it was such a fucking great thing that he became an artist. Well, this is what happens. He turns around and uses us for material. Get used to it. It doesn't seem like it's going to be over anytime soon. You got what you wanted. You got your glory.
Oh, fuck you. Such a nifty set. Very tidy.
We had to minimize it for this production because it was only the one show. We're hoping, of course, to be doing it again in New York.
There a big crowd out there?
Oh, in the lobby. Yeah, it's pretty...
The food?
Yeah, there's a table, I think, you know, with some cheese and crackers. I thought Josh was with you, maybe? I can't seem to find him. He was pretty anxious about your seeing the play.
Was he?
There were a couple of times, even before we workshopped it, where he thought he should just shelve it.
Until we died?
He's still working on it. It's not done. He's worried about your response.
I seriously doubt that.
It's beautiful here. I've never been here before.
Have you noticed that the mountains are too close?
Excuse me?
Carl's not very rah-rah. The entire 4 years that Josh was here, he came exactly twice. Move-in day and graduation.
No, Libby was back and forth between our house and this place, kind of like a yo-yo. There were times when I half suspected she was trailing him to class. It seemed impossible that one person could be in that many productions. She was here so often, she actually became friends with the woman who runs the mole hole.
It's a motel, the Miller Hill House. She felt sorry for me because I was always by myself.
They became drinking buddies.
We went out once, one time for a glass of wine. Josh understood that his father had this complicated relationship with the college.
My brother played hockey for BC, and my parents would fly from San Francisco to wherever he was playing. And I always wondered if he'd been in theater instead, if they would have spent all that time and money.
Did you do theater in college?
Yeah, but I was much closer to home, Stanford.
So their effort to attend did not impress.
I always thought parents of only children.
That's a stereotype, that doting bullshit.
Were you directing then?
I tried out for every musical, and I was always cast in the ensemble, but I loved that. I preferred it, really, to having a leading role. I love the idea of the company, the whole that's bigger than its component parts.
And do you love directing?
I'm one of those lucky people. Lots of things give me joy. And being in the theater in any capacity is thrilling to me. Directing is not a fallback position, which is what I think you're about to ask. I don't think of life that way. Plan A, plan B.
No one does at your age.
Marin notices Libby looking for a way off stage.
Do you need a hand? The stage is unusually high.
Everything here is bigger. Bigger and better. If there were an aesthetic and intellectual equivalent to supersizing, this place would be like, yeah, I need me a drink.
It's hard for him being here. I'm sorry, you're not seeing him at his best. Several generations of Carl's family went here. Well, several generations of men. And so there's always been that complex relationship between expectation and Carl's always marched to the beat of his own drum. Josh understands that about his father.
I've never met a man as perceptive as Josh.
Is there something other than a working friendship? Jesus, I'm sorry. That was very rude. Living with my husband for 33 years has rubbed off.
Oh, no, not rude. I thought Josh, I assumed he hasn't mentioned me to you?
Oh, don't take it personally. It's really about us. He wouldn't tell us something like that, or maybe anything. The last time we saw him, he was with Grace on Mother's Day.
Oh. Yeah, that got really sticky. Grace was traveling a lot, and Josh and I were working together like every night for months.
Oh, please don't feel that you need to.
Josh should really be the one.
I hope.
What?
That sometimes people who are very focused, it can be shockingly easy to find yourself outside, beyond his peripheral vision.
His intensity is what I love.
You think being near it, you can harness it.
I'm just as intense.
I know we can do, and
I think that we can do and even be more together than we can separately.
a successful relationship's as difficult an achievement as any I can think of. But it was sold to me, to women of my generation, as the most natural thing in the world, like gravity. If you had love, well, you really had something locked down.
Sorry.
What did you lose? Oh, no, your beautiful white pants.
No, I never do this. I never lose money, like misplace it or drop it. Yeah, Josh and I were at Walmart this morning getting some last minute props. Then he handed me a 20 on the way out, and I just stuffed it in my pants pocket.
Here.
Libby slides a 20 from her wallet.
Oh, no. It was.
No, Carl will be crushed. He was so excited when he found it under the seats after the talk back.
You're sure?
That it was your 20?
Josh's, really.
Please. But let's not tell Carl. You have no idea how happy it made him, that kind of Good luck.
Marin reluctantly accepts the 20. She unclasps her expensive leather handbag, takes out an expensive-looking wallet, and tucks away the bill.
Thank you.
Beautiful bag.
Maybe you and Carl can come back after dinner. We're staying in one of the frat houses the college shut down. There's a grand piano in the living room. Josh claims it belonged to Cole Porter. You down for some show tunes? I bet you have a great voice, Libby.
Oh, God, no. It's hideous. Carl has a good voice. That's where Josh gets it.
Carl has a very resonant speaking voice.
It makes everything he says sound... He's very verbal. Lots and lots of words, a big net of words. Sometimes in the midst of him going on and on, I have this terrible memory of my grandmother's garden. She used to wrap her blueberry bushes in very fine netting, and it was my job to pick the berries. I remember going down to the garden one morning as a little girl and finding a dead bird. From a distance, it looked as if it were suspended in midair. It had gotten tangled in the mesh and must have died trying to get out, trapped in that superfine netting, so fine it was invisible. The older I get, the less I'm a fan of words. They're so untrustworthy. I wonder if Grace...
I feel terrible about Grace.
And Josh? During Josh's sophomore year of college, I sent him a letter with this quote from Iris Murdoch. Love is the extremely difficult realization that something other than oneself is real. You can only imagine if your mother sends you that. Well, you can only imagine the events that precipitated it. He can be impulsive and selfish.
It's too soon.
It's never too soon.
Scene 3, living room of an old frat house, a grand piano. Josh is playing the piano and singing.
Overture is about to start. You cross your fingers and hold your heart. It's curtain time and away we go. Another opening of another show. It's Cole Porter's piano. It's the lovely.
Your parents are anxious to...
My parents are always anxious.
Where were you?
So don't let them begin the begin. Let the love that was once a fire remain an ember.
I called you like 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
Why weren't you answering?
Mm-hmm. Let it sleep like the dead desire. Only remember when they begin the begin.
Are you drunk?
I get no kick from champagne. Mere alcohol doesn't thrill me at all.
You were supposed to meet your parents in 20 minutes. You left me there with them for it was like an hour and a half. I'm having drinks with the class of 79 and dealing with, God, your father is like this really horrible mashup of, he's like a white Chris Rock. He's really smart and really angry. And your mother, I have no idea what her deal is.
I told you.
You told me facts, but this was an experience for which I was not prepared.
It's better that way. It's why drunks never get hurt in car accidents. They're loose. If I'd adequately prepped you, you'd have been all tense and likely sustained far greater injury.
2 things.
Go ahead.
Ditching on the reception, uncool.
But you're good at it, Mare.
Not the point. People wanted to talk to you. I said you'd gone to make some quick notes after the performance while it was still fresh in your mind.
Ooh, that's good.
You made me lie, and I hate lying.
Okay, I get that. Sorry. What's the second thing?
They didn't know about me.
Who?
Your parents.
I was thinking maybe I didn't want to do all that on the phone. That would have been a lot.
You never told me Grace went with you on Mother's Day.
Yes, I did.
Nope. Beforehand, you said you were going to tell her, and then you didn't until after that Sunday. But you never said she went with you to Huntington, that you went as a couple to a family thing like 3 weeks ago.
I don't see it that way. She'd just come back from Singapore. I couldn't help her into the apartment with her bags and then say, by the way, don't bother to unpack because I'm giving you the boot. And it would be really good if you could get your shit out of here now because you've been out of the country the past 3 weeks and I've decided to sublet my apartment and move in with my new and improved girlfriend.
Your mother asked me about Grace, asked me how she took it, basically. And then she...
Whoa.
Yeah, then she warned me.
Threatened you?
She warned me about you. She told me this is what you do. You hurt people.
In the Libby Stern Bible of how to live life, because she knows how everyone ought, a word she loves, live his or her life, hurting someone's feelings is criminal behavior. Not only unacceptable, intolerable, but, and here's the kicker, irredeemable. Black mark on the soul. The cause for justified and ceaseless shame. My mother has no fucking idea how to be in the world, how impossible it is to succeed in any way if you're always hell-bent on earning the merit badge that reads 1 million served, 0 wounded. Wounded. That's another one she loves. Other people get hurt, but Libby gets wounded.
I told her I thought we were pretty well matched.
Now's when you say, don't fuck with me.
Do I need to?
Josh grabs her and tries to dip her backwards in a ballroom dance move. Marin resists.
We need to work on that.
Is that what you're wearing?
I don't know. Is it?
Okay. We gotta go.
Josh and Marin walk together.
You didn't tell them too much about yourself, did you? I mean, it's better with my father. It's a lot better if...
Some classmate of his who is clearly loaded started chatting him up. And I could see he was...
Oh, yeah, he'll kind of latch on and get his teeth into that. And he'll turn your mother's success into... I don't know.
Well, that's ridiculous. It's got nothing to do with me. What?
Of course it does.
I mean... Yes, white privilege, sure, but my personality, myself, was not informed by my mother's success selling hideously overpriced houses in Northern California. It's not like your father hasn't had a privileged life. You too, for that matter.
Really, Marin, we're talking exponentially different.
Yeah, that's just the money. I mean, in terms of access. Christ, it's not like Grace.
He loved Grace. Loved that she was this self-made geek with the potential for really cashing in.
You mean Grace didn't threaten him?
He likes to be the one doing the threatening.
Somehow I got that.
It'd be better not to mention the Oracle Theater thing just now.
God, I was thinking the timing was so great. We could celebrate.
Jesus, you didn't say anything already, did you? While you were
AWOL? It scared me. You're disappearing. Did you think about that?
When I was growing up, My father used to just go missing, like a lot. It was before cell phones. Sometimes he wouldn't come home after work, or he'd say he was going to get gas for the lawnmower and not come back for hours. Or I'd be waiting for him at a friend's or at a field after practice, waiting for him to pick me up, and he just wouldn't. It happened so often that I was always a little surprised when he did show, like it was a bonus, him doing the thing he said he'd do. One time, we were flying to visit my grandparents in Florida. We're all at the airport, and he says he's going to get a newspaper, and like half an hour goes by. They call our flight, and my mother says, well, either we'll see him on the plane or we'll see him when we get back home. Everyone boards, the seatbelt sign comes on, and we're just about to taxi. I mean, the doors are already closed. And then the door opens, and my old man comes jogging down the aisle, only very slightly sheepish. My mother always told me it was because he had a lot on his mind, and his mind was huge, like an enormous amusement park where he was continually getting lost.
What?
I know. It sounds absurd, but it's also kind of true, I think.
It's self-indulgent.
Oh, maybe just self-preservation.
And that's your excuse for why you ditched on the reception? Because I got to tell you, I'm not interested in playing queen of the martyrs and enablers. I mean, that's bullshit. No one is too smart to be on time or...
I know. I know that. But I used to think he was a secret agent. We'd be waiting, and my mother would get so mad. And I'd want to defend him, but I couldn't. Not without blowing his cover and jeopardizing national security. For a long time, I was sure that he forgot to pick me up, forgot to meet us, forgot to come home because he was saving the world.
Guys from his class made it sound like this is the first time they've seen him since...
Yeah, this place makes him uncomfortable. Technically, he's not really an alum. He failed to comply with some attendance requirement for a lab his last semester. When he learned he wasn't getting credit for the class, he flipped off the professor, hopped in his car, and went to Newfoundland for 4 months.
What?
He used to tell me the ivy gave him hives. It's a big deal he showed up today.
Does he always go around quoting poetry? Or is that a defense specific to the setting?
Did he come at you with the prologue to the Canterbury Tales, or was it the Yeats?
Donald Hall, my son, my executioner.
He does the Chaucer in Middle English. It's quite the party trick. One my mother fell for.
I can picture him as an English professor in one of those big lectures.
He thought he was going to make a lot of money. I'm not sure he really wanted to, actually, but he thought it was what he was supposed to do, what he ought, as my mother would say, do.
Do you really want to make a lot of money?
I'm kind of like my mother. I want to spend a lot of money, and I have no fucking idea, really, how to make any.
No, be serious.
What? See, if I were a proper gentleman, I'd give you my jacket. Well, first I'd be wearing a jacket.
No, I've got my own jacket. I'm not cold.
You should see your face right now. You look, I mean...
I have to be able to trust you, Josh.
What are you talking about? Hold on. Okay, all right. It's nothing.
Why did you send me the play to begin with?
What?
Why me?
I sent it to the theater's creative director. I didn't send it to you. I didn't know you.
There's no not knowing anyone anymore.
What are you talking about? We've just landed this huge...
You're very...
Well, what?
Strategic.
Oh, okay, what's going on? Like, I feel like we're having two different conversations. Like, I just dropped into some alternate universe and
Well, now you know how I feel. I'm like really not trusting you right now.
about.
Anything, everything.
I'm sorry I bailed on you at the reception. I'm really sorry. I couldn't.
You're not telling your parents that I existed, let alone that you were living with me, that you'd broken up with Grace. What is that?
That's me being,
Dishonest.
No, you want to let me finish? It was just so much, I try to keep things very simple with them, very one-dimensional. You have no idea the inroads they like to make into my life. Small bits of information are always best, just the outlines.
You should have seen your mother's face. Like, I mean, her tone was so...
They're crazy. You just told me that not 10 minutes ago. We just have to keep it bland, safe, and all of the relationship stuff, none of that is bland.
Okay, so as long as things are easy for you, my feelings don't matter. Great.
Tell me what I'm supposed to do. What is it you want me to say to them?
To already have said to them.
Tell me how to fix it, Mayor.
Blackout. End of Act 1. There will be a 5-minute intermission. Carl, Libby, Josh, and Marin are at the tail end of dinner.
Well, according to the New York Times, there's a mass exodus of young artists from New York.
Yeah, the whole New York City's over thing.
Well, in terms of rents, it's hardly conducive. Who's that actor with the theater in the Midwest who,
Jeremy Piven.
No, that's the parents.
Jeff Daniels, the Purple Rose Theater. It's in Michigan.
We should all move to Michigan. Incredible deals on real estate there in Detroit.
Well, I just got to New York, and I resent people telling me it's over.
Get used to it, kiddo. Such is life. We prepare ourselves to live as adults in the only adult world that we've ever known, which is our parents' world, and that's the future we imagine. By the time we're grown, presto changeo, that world's gone.
Not gone, repurposed.
My theater used to be a bathhouse originally. It was built in 1906. Sometimes when I'm in there late at night, I think I hear splashing. Last week, Angel, he's our choreographer who rents rehearsal space from us. He told me he'd heard what sounded like something being submerged into a deep pool of water over and over.
What do you mean by my theater?
Only Carl can hear a ghost story.
I bought it 2 years ago. The place was a total wreck. It's still pretty, I don't know, what's the word for urban rustic? No, there really isn't one. But we're getting there, I think.
You own the building?
Well, technically the bank does, but yeah. I know it's kind of crazy, but we're doing well. I mean, we should be by the beginning of next year. I'm projecting a profit.
Which is amazing for a theater company.
Yeah. My mother insisted I work for her during summers in college, so eventually I picked up some of those skills.
Marin's mother's in real estate.
Your father too?
No, he was a golf pro, a teaching pro at a club, but he retired and...
No, There's an oxymoron. Retired golf pro.
Actually, growing up, it's a funny thing with a skill like that. I mean, all the members, wherever he was working, they'd act like they admired him, but he was, of course, never their equal. And with my mother's colleagues, he always told me that being a teaching pro was like being a tradesman.
Hey, even shit plumbers make more than I do.
Well, I guess he was talking about something other than money. Country clubs are super weird places. Someday I'd love to stage some agitprop on the 16th hole. Just go to that place where folks at their most unconscious and get them thinking.
The highest form of morality is not to feel at home in one's own home.
Wow. Yes, exactly.
That's Theodore Adorno, not Carl Stern.
And if Adorno's right, I must be morality's poster boy.
Carl pours himself some more wine.
Getting old in this particular world where we now find ourselves is like being a fucking refugee. Every time I open the paper or turn on the radio, I feel as if I've been sentenced to live out the rest of my life in a strange land, getting stranger every day.
Josh reaches his fork and spears food from Marin's plate into his mouth.
Whatever. Things change.
Yeah, big things, constantly. You're trying to get from point A to point B, and every time you pull out your map, it's more and more outdated.
Start by losing the paper map.
Hey, smartass. Wait until your beloved global positioning system's about as au courant as a sundial. It's an unnerving business, the speed at which the world changes. You try to stockpile some knowledge, gather up in needed information. Forget about wisdom. I mean, fuck wisdom. But in this trajectory, this maturation, one assumes, one's been taught to believe that you'll arrive at mastery. But it's nothing like that. You remain an apprentice forever. You get old, but you never get a foothold. That never changes. And you know what? Not only is it fucking humiliating, it's exhausting. You get to a point and you just want to say, hey, can we bring the finish line a little closer just to call it already?
Carl pours the remainder of the wine into his glass, waves the bottle in the air as a way of getting the waiter's attention.
Jesus, why don't you just whistle? Dad.
I'm just fucking with you. I know not to whistle in a crowded restaurant. I wasn't raised by wolves.
Carl raises his hand above his head and snaps his finger. The waiter does not turn. Marin adjusts her posture slightly, tilts her chin in the direction of the waiter. Waiter approaches the table and asks, "Are we still working here, or?"
You get another bottle. You could view change as exciting. I mean, for argument's sake, if things stay the same.
Darling, you can view change as exciting because you haven't had to contend with it yet. I'm not talking about the fork in the road. I'm talking about the roadblock. You get back to me in, how old are you?
29?
15 years from now. And then we'll
hope, because that's all we can do, that you've had a late life conversion to a happy person.
I don't think it's the same for our generation. I mean, we have really different expectations. We've had to. My parents were raised to buy into this external framework for your happiness, which...
The idea that if only you get the right job, the right spouse, the right body, it'll all be right. I mean, when you think about it, it's just...
Naive?
Yeah, you guys were indulged, allowed to hang on to these childlike notions.
And so romanticism gives way to crushing pragmatism. Glad you're not as old as you're as old as you are. You hate pragmatism.
Well, okay. Let's say your generation is more evolved. Why would...
We've had no choice. The world's been fucked the whole time we've been alive.
Yet, your young lady here
She's not anybody's young lady, Carl, and she's not anybody's darling. Her name is Marin.
It's okay.
Not really.
Marin still has dreams of success. So do you. And I'm here to tell you that there's no dreaming without naivete.
This is Dad's way of saying he'd rather be right than happy.
What the hell does that mean?
Aunt Pat, when we were younger, if she ever saw a bride, in a limo or posing with her wedding party for photos, she'd yell out, "Lower your expectations!"
The amazing thing about that little anecdote, of which Libby is exceedingly fond, is that nobody has higher expectations for just about everything, with the exception of household cleanliness, than the members of Libby's family.
Hate to say, Mom, but it's true.
Terrible housekeepers, every one of us.
They wear it like a sign and a symbol. Artists can't possibly be bothered to vacuum. The state of her sister's house bears a direct correlation to her talent.
My sister's a writer.
I know. I love her stuff. During a rehearsal a few months ago, I started telling Josh about this book I was reading, The Archived Woman, and he lets me go on and on about it. And after like 20 minutes, he says, "Oh, by the way, that's my aunt." I think she's amazing. I mean, the combination of the research with her ability to imagine into her characters, I'm like a crazy fan. And she was so generous with her time when we asked her to come to a table read.
She saw the play?
Mom, lots of people saw the play before today.
But you didn't tell me Pat saw it. She didn't tell me either.
Yep, it was while we were still working on it.
When?
I don't know, February?
Jesus. I've talked to her at least 10 times since then. God, that's so... Pat and Josh have always had this wonderful alliance with one another. They're close because they're alike. Twice I've received the same card from each of them. Once on my birthday and then once on...
Because cards suck and there's never more than a single semi-decent one for any occasion.
They have the same sense of humor, the ability to walk this razor-thin line between funny and... She must have loved that whole support group scene. That would be right up her alley.
Everybody seems to like that scene.
Was that your sense this afternoon?
Jesus, just say what you mean, Dad.
There's a difference between real laughter and uncomfortable titter.
Why don't you tell me how it should go? Give me your notes so I can fix what's wrong.
I don't know why you had to use your mother to make the sausage, so to speak.
I'm sure it would have been a lot funnier if I weren't your mother.
If you weren't my mother, you wouldn't have been there.
My real concern, though, well, it feels like there's an unkindness at the core of the whole.
Humor at someone's expense.
You trade on this assumption, this agreed upon, socially sanctioned misogyny. Mothers, not young mothers, not new mothers, middle-aged women, you reduce them to this one-dimensional caricaturization, this role that you demonize. Crone, battle axe, fishwife. It's like they're simultaneously pointless and threatening. A hipster take on the Salem witch trials.
What?
Actually, an interesting take on it.
You were offended, so now you're going to offend me. Not very evolved, Mom.
I thought the humor, the jokes, they were easy.
Broad?
In spots.
So what are you saying? The show is mean or bad? Shit, both?
You're better than that.
Fuck me. Better how? As a person or a writer? As usual, you're going to let her just,
She's right. You stack the deck.
Holy shit, it's not about them. The play is not about the mothers. Don't you get that? That's like one very small part of the whole thing.
Marin stands.
Excuse me.
Past the bar on the left.
She's lovely.
Well, since the play sucks, at least you like the director.
She's very pretty.
She seemed very bright. You might have given us a heads up about Grace, though.
Why?
Well, apart from the fact that we're your parents and you might have liked to share something that significant with us, it was incredibly awkward for us and for Marin. It was inconsiderate.
I'm trying to be consistent. Consistently insensitive and just like
Ass.
Okay, look, this isn't what any of us wants right now.
how do you know what I want? Maybe I want nothing more than to have a big fucking freak out right here, right now.
Oh, don't be dramatic.
Okay, Josh, I'm sorry. We're under a lot of strain just now. You're our pride and joy. It's that simple.
Anything but simple, Mom. You got to get your own pride, your own joy. Didn't you always tell me happiness was an inside job?
Well, then I'll be as happy living in a crack house in East Bumfuck as I am in Huntington, which is to say,
Jesus, Libby.
your father thinks we should move to North Greystone, rent the bottom of a triple-decker or maybe the top. That'd be the heart-healthy choice.
What are you talking about?
We have to move.
Why?
The usual reason anybody moves these days. We're going to lose the house.
What?
Okay, this doesn't concern you. New topic. What I'd like to know is why are all your girlfriends rich?
Have you missed a payment?
Not yet.
This is because of me, right? The home equity loan for college?
This is because of what happened when your father quit.
We're in the last quarter of the game and we're not cutting it. We're not making enough to pay our bills. We've been relying on a couple of credit cards and they're almost maxed out. And we've simply got to cut expenses,
Or make more money.
which we can't seem to do.
For now, everyone hits a slump. Can't you ride it out knowing it's going to turn around?
The only thing I know, kiddo, is that nothing's going to turn around. What I did for my work, those skills, the writing and editing skills your mother and I have, no one gives a shit about that anymore.
What are you talking about?
Rent.
But can't you just do the same thing for online content?
No one edits that crap.
But the books are working out, right?
Not really.
How so?
How to?
Come on, Dad, seriously.
Seriously, it's seriously bad. We get some money for those books, but that gig's got to be on its way out. Everything in those books, all that info, you can get it by Googling. And the real kicker is, who knows how long we're going to live?
You have savings though, right? Some retirement?
Not really.
But what about your pension?
Dad left before he was fully vested.
Right, I know, but still.
Security's not going to cut it. We got to get rid of the house and then, I don't know, rent somewhere a hell of a lot cheaper.
This is not yours to worry about.
Which is why you shouldn't have brought it up.
I know I shouldn't have.
How did this happen? I don't understand. You're both smart and...
Got nothing to do with it.
But shit like this doesn't happen suddenly.
Everyone thinks you get old gradually, but really, it is sudden. Suddenly you're unemployable.
What does that even mean?
It means you have no currency. It's like your cash and the whole world is Bitcoin.
Dad, people start entirely new careers at your age. There's gotta be something else you can do.
We're doing it. Radical reduction. We got to shift the whole mindset. Our health insurance premium is $977 per month. Christ, if one of us gets a job at like Trader Joe's for even 20 hours a week, then we'll get health insurance.
I didn't realize I'd be living in a crack house and working at Trader Joe's.
You're not realizing stuff is partly how we found ourselves here.
I know. I should have been more like you all along, more focused on a career, more committed to making money. I indulged myself. I was willfully immoderate in my choices. I focused on what I liked, which was being Josh's mother. I understand that the work of my life, work I thought was important, was something you think I could have done all the while holding down a real job. The ways I've been available to each of you, to our friends, our relatives, all the nurturing, all of that demands a level of attention and energy. I've made caretaking my priority, which you both find...
Mom,
Marin re-enters and walks towards the table, followed by the waiter carrying a tray with 4 glasses of champagne.
What's this?
Well, we have something really special to announce. The Oracle Playhouse just picked Nutmeg State for its main stage production next spring. 294 seats.
Oh my God.
We didn't know for sure. I mean, it was looking good, but it wasn't up until we got here yesterday that...
What extraordinary news.
And I'm directing.
Congratulations to you.
That's a play about the prep school. Nothing succeeds like success.
Oracle's a real New York theater with subscribers and...
Oh, I know. I love that place. Pat and I saw... Oh my gosh. Perfect timing. I almost forgot.
Libby pulls a wrapped gift from her bag and hands it to Josh.
what's this for?
To mark the occasion. I mean, it was so that you would remember today's performance.
Josh pulls an engraved picture frame from the wrapping. In place of a photo, there is a piece of paper bearing this quote: "If you can write, you own the world."
Thank you. I'm not sure it's true, but it's motivational.
What's it say?
If you can write, you own the world. And it's engraved with today's date.
She used to bake Josh a half cake on his half birthday.
Carl thinks I'm exceedingly sentimental.
Well,
You know what line I loved? When the mother with the bouffant hair,
Alex, the Greek mother.
I loved it when she said she wished there were storage facilities for all the feelings her daughter thinks are excessive on her part.
psycho self-store, safe and secure. Choose the size that's right for you.
I'd need a big unit, wouldn't I? Supersize.
What's supposed to go in here? A review?
I thought maybe a photo of the production or even the flyer.
You ever write reviews? That's a line of work you might consider. That or get into business with this, real estate, emphasis on real.
Just because you're not happy doesn't mean that...
Jesus, this has nothing to do with happiness. This has to do with living, making a living, staying afloat, averting total disaster.
Oh,
Right now, you are aimed straight.
Carl taps the picture frame.
This is the problem right here. This is the fantasy she raised you on. Make believe. It's not your fault, or it wasn't, but Christ, kiddo, you're almost 30. It's time to discriminate between what's real and adult and what's the dreamy dream. You've got a good mind, but I swear I think she rerouted.
I have a name too. Refer to me as she one more time.
Let's call it a night, okay?
I'm just giving you a heads up.
I'm good, Dad.
It's my job to warn you, you know? I mean, hindsight's useless to me now. But if I can help you avoid the pitfalls...
My life, my pitfalls.
Jesus, you think this life's a joyride? That you'll be on top of the wave forever?
No one teaching SAT prep 20 hours a week thinks they're riding a crest of a fucking wave, trust me.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. Next steps. If you don't plan now, you're going to wind up a 50-year-old tutor trawling the Upper East Side.
Park Slope, but really, who knows where the real estate is gonna,
Okay, this is a joke to you. I'm simply trying to warn you, Josh. That place on the hill is not going to save you. All your achievements in school, all your small successes on small stages, the net that she spun you is going to give away. She know nothing about what it means to be up against it every day. Dollars in, dollars out. The sheer terror. I'm doing you a favor. I'm telling you the truth. You don't know what it takes.
For what?
To make a living. doing this?
Carl picks up Libby's half-full glass of champagne and exits the restaurant. Waiter comes to the table with the bill.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry you
As I
had to.
swear to God, if you fucking apologize for him.
Well, at the very least, Marin deserves an apology.
It's okay, really.
It's an extraordinarily difficult time for him. He didn't want you to know about our finances. When you were in the restroom, I shared some details about.
His difficult time doesn't give him the right to eviscerate me.
Of course not. I'm just.
He doesn't need a translator. We all understood the English version.
Everyone's had a lot to drink.
I haven't had nearly enough.
I have the car keys.
Are you worried about him?
No.
Fuck him.
Josh, you do have to know he didn't mean that.
That's it. I'm out. Make sure they charge us for the glass he stole. I am not disappearing. I am simply leaving ahead of you. I'm going to the package store to buy some vodka. Then I'm going to play Cole Porter's piano and drink.
Marin pulls out a credit card.
Hang on.
Libby reaches into her bag, pulls out her wallet, and begins counting out her cash. Looks down at the picture frame.
It's hard to stop, you know. I guess this, well, it was a misstep probably. I keep doing the things I always did. But at some point it becomes, well, at best foolish and at worst, I suppose, inappropriate.
Libby, this is actually a business expense. I'm putting it on my business card. Really, it's okay.
Well, did they put the glass on the bill? I mean, I can't have you paying for that.
Passes Marin a $5 bill.
Thank you. It was lovely. Well, I mean, it should have been a lovely treat if our family hadn't been. Oh God, what a horrible first impression. I can't imagine what you'll tell your own family.
My mother's a huge fan of Pat's work. She's amazed that Josh is her nephew.
Pat redeems us. Thank you again. That really was very generous. As the parents, we should have been. Pat has very kindly passed my name along to the young couple writing the screenplay for The Archived Woman.
Oh, wow. That sounds promising.
They live in Brooklyn, Cobble Hill. They just had their second child in April, a girl. They have a little boy who's almost 3. I've met with them twice. Today, just before the show, the husband called. I'd thought my age would be a liability, but apparently I have something to offer in terms of experience and maturity. I'm less likely to be staring at my phone, letting the baby roll off the bed or the toddler drown in the tub. Full benefits, Sundays off.
You'd be living there?
If I take it. I mean, I haven't totally decided yet, though it doesn't feel like much of a choice at this point. The thought of telling Josh, I haven't even told Carl. The kids seem very sweet. Of course, you can't really tell with a newborn, but you're the first person I've told. I mean, it's just, humility is such a prized trait, but humiliation.
I don't think there's any reason you should feel.
Oh, there's every reason. There's so little room in this culture for failure. It's very un-American. Josh must have been about 14, rifling through the mail one day. He picked up a manila envelope addressed to me from me. He wanted to know why I'd mailed myself something. I explained it was a rejected manuscript, a story I'd sent to a magazine, a story that wasn't taken. He was quiet for a moment, as if considering, and then, very thoughtfully, he said, I don't think it would be that hard. I mean, if you really wanted to, Mom, to write a bestseller, I mean, couldn't you figure that out? In the same instant, I had 2 completely contradictory thoughts. How utterly ridiculous. And also, I mean, that kind of belief in one's own powers was ludicrous when it applied to me. but that unlimited sense of possibility was true for him. I remember feeling this like kind of relief, maybe even of my own responsibility. His unbridled sense of himself was my unburdening.
Marin begins to rewrap the picture frame.
It was from a horoscope. Carl carried it around in his wallet for years. For talisman to work, so you have to believe in it.
Growing up, we weren't allowed any lucky horseshoes or pennies. No knocking on wood or wishing on an eyelash or a ladybug. We were at a barbecue when I was maybe 10, and my mother caught a friend's daughter looking up at the night sky, reciting Starlight, Star Bright. And my mother says to this little girl, by definition, luck is something that cannot be controlled. Of course, the girl cried. Later, when we were home, my mother asked me if I understood what she said. She told me it was especially important for girls to know that their futures depended only on themselves.
Your mother sounds very smart.
End of scene. Scene 2. Upstairs in the frat house. There is one window in the room. The engraved picture frame, the quote in it, is leaning on the windowsill. Marin is in bed reading on her laptop. A few final piano chords are audible, coming from a lower floor. Then loud clumping up the stairs. Then a gentle opening of the dorm room door. Josh tiptoes in.
I'm awake. Did that help?
Was I playing too loud?
Shouts from the outside can be heard, the sound of empty cans rolling on pavement.
You're not loud enough.
Really?
Did he call?
My father?
I just thought,
Well, why would he call? He's got nothing to say. He said it all. He's done. In a million fucking years, it wouldn't occur to him to wonder about me.
I'm sure your mother...
My mother? Yeah. That only caused him to double down on his righteousness.
I know I made things worse with the champagne and the big announcement. I just couldn't...
In his mind, it's him or me. It's like I'm his mortal enemy. For him to survive, I must be eliminated. I swear to God, I wish he'd just use a gun and get it over with already.
Josh.
Just so much shrapnel all the time with him. What happened after I left? I know, but I couldn't, Mare. I couldn't sit there one more minute listening to her apologizing for him.
I think she was just trying to undo the damage.
No, his being an asshole makes her look good. So she pushes him right to the edge of the proscenium for the big number while she hides in the wing. You're in the audience and you just feel so fucking manipulated. She tell you they're losing their house?
God, no.
When you were in the bathroom, they decided to lay that on me.
That's terrible.
My father didn't want me to know, and my mother couldn't wait to dump it on me. They're thinking of moving up here to North Greystone.
Where we went this morning? Where that Walmart is?
It seems sort of dramatic, but hell, I mean, maybe when you get old and shit's mostly downhill, you have to gin up these little dramas to keep yourself engaged. I mean, I don't doubt they're fucked financially, but the solution seems unnecessarily...
I'm not supposed to tell you. I think your mother wants to tell you herself. It seems like Pat's hooked her up with a job as a live-in nanny for some couple in Cobble Hill.
What?
She seems pretty concerned about what you'll think, that you'll...
She's going to live with these people? In their apartment? Like an au pair or a servant?
Sounds like your father doesn't even know. And all she said was that she'd been offered the job. She didn't...
Jesus.
Josh,
You can't make this shit up.
Ever since your mother told me that tonight, I've been thinking, is there a way that I could... I mean, I have money. I have money we could give them.
Well, Wait a minute.
It's not that big of a deal. I could just give you some money so that it would come from you. That would be much better.
No, hold on. What are we talking about here?
It's not a trap.
I didn't say it was.
But you're acting like it. It's just money.
Jesus, how much?
I don't know. I mean, what would make a difference to them?
I don't know. What wouldn't make a difference to you?
I'm not worried about that. That's not the issue. Would it
Piss off my father in ways I could have never dreamed?
the intention is the money, I would only want to give it to them if it'll really come across as a gift. A blind luck, like found money, something they can simply feel happy about.
Huh. You want to make my father happy? Have you met him? Carl Stern, not too big to fail. Even if you could, if you were capable of bailing them out, it would be like your parents paying for my...
It's got nothing to do with my parents. It's a trust from my grandmother. It's no more my money, really, than it is... I mean, I'd never shortchange the theater, but the money, when it's not being used, is theoretical, a pie chart on an investment statement. Your mother getting to stay in her house is tangible to me.
And in return?
What do you mean?
In exchange for the money, you expect...
Nothing, no expectations.
Gratitude?
From your parents?
From me.
From you, I expect what I always expect. Money or no money. I mean, Josh, this has nothing to do with you and me.
And my old man thinks I live in a dream world.
I do not understand what you're saying to me. That you don't think it's possible for someone to give without wanting anything in return?
Not when cash is involved, no.
God, that's really sad.
It's realistic. It's honest. The bill will get presented at some point, somehow.
And you will be expected to pay? Wow.
Jesus, Marin, really?
Wow.
There's no way this wouldn't be incredibly complicated. I'm already trying to pick my way through working with you and living with you. And now you think I should juggle one more ball up on that high wire?
Marin gets out of bed and begins dressing.
What are you doing?
I didn't realize our relationship, our work together, were balls you had to juggle in your high wire act.
Wait. How did we go from talking about money to, see, it's already happened. It's already, you don't even know them. As hard luck stories go, my parents is barely moving. It involves nothing particularly hard, nothing beyond their own impotence. They blew it. Everybody gets a chance. Well, not everybody, but they certainly had plenty and they blew it. Why should you, or would you, reward this?
Reward? You have the worldview of a 5-year-old. You can't possibly believe we get what we deserve. If that were the case, you deserve everything your father said to you tonight.
What's going on?
Marin continues gathering her things from around the room and throwing them into her duffel bag. When she is finished, she grabs her bags and heads for the door, stops, and pulls out a $20 bill from her purse and throws it on the bed, exits. Blackout. Sound of crashing glass is heard. End of scene. Scene 3, Sunday morning, 10 a.m., the common room of the old frat house. Carl is inspecting a book among the few discarded books on the bookshelves. There is a small overnight bag on the piano bench. Outside, the sound of trumpets announcing the start of a ceremony. Josh walks partway through the room carrying his backpack and a small duffel before he notices Carl and stops. His right hand is bandaged with a ripped bedsheet.
What are you doing here?
I'm waiting for you. Though how you can sleep through this racket's beyond me.
Commencement.
I didn't know which room you were in.
Oh, it just started.
I'm gonna need a ride home.
What happened to the car?
What happened to your hand?
Cut it, picking up some broken glass.
I should have texted, but I'm not a texter.
Where's the car?
In Connecticut. Your mother drove home last night.
I can't help you.
I understand everyone's angry with me just now, but I have no other way of getting home, Josh.
Well, maybe you should have thought of that before being such an asshole.
If you and Marin won't drive me to Hartford, could you at least drive me to the bus station in North Greystone?
How'd you get from the motel?
I walked. Are you suggesting that I walk 120 miles to Hartford?
Well, what about one of your old classmates?
Did you know that your mother was planning to leave me? That she was taking a job in New York as a nanny?
Problem solved.
What are you talking about?
Income.
She's going to be living there, living with this family in Brooklyn. Not your problem, apparently.
Once again, you come to and you're at the intersection of victim and vine. What a mystery.
That feel good? We even now?
Even. That's your whole fucking problem. Parents and children don't get even with each other.
You're not a child.
Josh drops to the floor, sits cross-legged.
What are you doing?
Resting. I'm exhausted. I didn't get much sleep.
I didn't get any.
Marin went back to the city last night.
She take the car?
I think she broke up with me.
You don't know. Or you don't want to know. This puts that whole Oracle Theater thing in jeopardy?
Oracle. It's the Oracle Theater. And that's not the point.
Maybe not the whole point.
Josh stands, leaves his bags on the floor, and begins to walk towards the door.
Where are you going?
Don't worry.
No shit, Josh, really. Where are you going? Where are you headed?
Service in here sucks. I'm calling us an Uber.
Uber. Übermensch, Überlegen, Übertreiben, Deutschland über alles. It's a fucking car service, not a Nietzschean theory. Strap into some shitbox chauffeured by a shadow dweller.
Chapel bells sound. The end. Blackout.
No, don't.
Bravo, you guys.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Hi, Kathleen.
Hey. Hi.
So, hi, Ann. Hello.
Great job, everybody.
Great job. Great acting.
Yeah, hi, Ross.
Great to see everybody.
Yeah.
I was just saying how well it works. It makes you really focus on the words.
Doesn't it? It's quite an interesting new dimension we're finding, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, hi, San.
Hi, how are you?
Everyone's waving.
Hi, Ray. So as a reminder for our talkbacks, we talk about what drew us in. That's where we start, what we liked. We behave at first as though the playwright isn't in the room, although there she is. right in the middle of my screen, Rachel Basch is here with us. Congratulations, Rachel.
Yeah, Rachel, good
I
job.
really, a huge thank you to all the actors. That was just wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, they were super. So we talk about what drew us into the play, what